Welcome, Valentin. How are you doing, sir?
Happy to be here, Matt. Glad to join you in this call.
Excellent. So we had a discussion and we thought it was worth just recapping or reflecting really on where we started and where we've come to. So it's probably worth some introductions first up. I don't know, Valentin, do you want to kind of explain to the audience who you are, what your background is?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Matt. I'm coming from about 21 years of software engineering and software and hardware engineering, actually. Somewhere around 14, 15 years around embedded software in some major companies in the US, like Intel, Siemens, Mentor Graphics. But somewhere around 8 to 9 years ago, I jumped into gaming and I said, Activision, here I come. I led some of the major titles these guys had there. Then I switched to a company called Playtika, which does social gaming, social casino games. And later on, in the past 2 years and a half, almost 3 years, I had my own gaming studio and I was fully hands-on driving all the development there. And luckily, later last year, I did a very nice exit once again from this gaming studio. And then I said, hey, let's go about the crypto thingies. And then we met. Here we are together now.
We did indeed. And do you want to maybe just talk to the audience around the thesis on what we were going to do when you first came on board, which is quite interesting, I think, and quite a funny story.
Our first discussion was that if anybody wants to make games on a blockchain, when I say they, I mean any kind of studio or an indie developer will need the best tools in order to be able to access the blockchain. And I said at that moment earlier this year, let's build an SDK. And which SDK means software development kit. I said for the Unity 3D graphical engine, because that's that's mostly used in the gaming development now in a very small team. So for fast development, that's how people go. And we started with the SDK, and in very short period of time, we had the SDK done. And I'm smiling only because, and I'll let you tell about the roadmap we I initially received in respect to the time frame I had to do all the stuff.
Yeah, that's quite a funny story actually, because I think when you first joined, we talked about we'll give you 6 months, create a robust enterprise grade SDK that developers can use in a way that feels kind of easy, seamless. And pretty much you said, yeah, no problem, we'll get that done. I think day 2 or day 3, if I remember correctly, that first SDK iteration was there and available. Is that fair?
Yeah, it was the beta version when I said, okay, so where should I push all the source code now because it's done, and I had issues with people really trusting me. Well, besides you, right? Where how can we test it and how should we use that? Then that challenge that we had in the very first days after the SDK was done, and basically I was covering the whole blockchain functionality, the whole API that we had at that moment. It was already covered. And I said, okay, let's build a game so we can showcase this nicely done SDK. And then for a few weeks, we started to analyze the market. And I remember the input I had also from you and also from our researchers saying yes and no to most of the crazy ideas that we both had. But in the end, we said, hey, let's go with a first-person shooter. And then I do remember that call we had very late in the night, said which markets we should attack. And I'll let you tell the story with the markets and how we thought attacking those parts.
Yeah, and I think that is a good point. I think it was very clear that we wanted to drive adoption. We wanted to drive wallets. We wanted it in a fashion that people felt that it was a game rather than a crypto game. And you very much kind of drove that thesis. And I think first-person shooter felt like the right way to go. I know you've been getting a little bit of grief in the market around that choice, but do you want to just maybe drill in a little bit around why it makes total sense to go down the route that we chose?
Yes. We started to look, or it's a well-known fact that the mobile market, when I say mobile, I mean smartphones and tablets, both iOS and Android, are the biggest gaming market now. it's beating PC, it's beating consoles with a good degree on all that. And we said, okay, so we need to definitely cover the mobile part. Then we start thinking, what kind of genre should do? Should it be a card game? Should it be a racing car game, a shooter? And we've seen much better numbers in respect to the shooters. And I said, okay, so shooters on the mobile devices. And then I started to think about, hey, how about cross-play and cross-progression with the same game, but for PC, Mac, Linux, and even maybe in the future, PlayStation and Xbox. Because we are using Unity, it's quite easy to port the game on all these platforms, on all these devices. But the biggest problem is that if you want the same experience, the same game content, the same stuff, the same game itself, the gameplay, the fun of it that we have on any of the devices, you cannot have it at the same degree on the mobile devices, right? And we said, okay, so we need to do something like leverage in respect to the graphics, the style of the game. So that's why we choose the low poly style. That doesn't mean it's the graphics from late 90s or early 2000. We still use 2K resolution textures. We do the whole game architecture content, seasonal content that now we are preparing for the next years, in plural, next years. We have that already planned. The same way I was doing my stuff in other AAA studios. And by the way, I get extremely good help from the engineers that we already have hired, and the modelers, the graphics, because they all come from AAA or at least AA studios that have done great titles in the past. And I'm not being too cocky saying we are having somewhere around 50 or 55 years of experience in total, in a collective way, in respect to making games in this kind of studios. So the approach in developing games, it's games on blockchain, not blockchain games. Even the wording, we keep it like that because that's the attack angle we have when we develop any kind of features.
Yeah, I think that's an important point that you touched on. I think there was a realization that the competition, that people say, oh, who you compete against, Solana, Wax, Tezos, who are your competitors? The reality is our competitors are the likes of Netflix. How do we create an experience that people want to kind of take part in? And the blockchain aspect really becomes a sideshow to that conversation. I know there's been a lot of talk in the market about play to earn, and maybe the model needs to change. And I think we're a proponent of that. Let's have games that people want to play. And as a function of being good at it, let's create a tokenomics model around skill to earn that allows people to kind of play if they're good and they partake in it. So I think that was an important kind of juncture in terms of our thesis around moving things forward. And I guess when we're thinking about that adoption and getting people who are not crypto, but who are gamers into the space, how did we kind of look to address that challenge in terms of the onboarding from the wallet aspect, which is typically where there's the biggest barrier to entry?
Right. Just after we had a very good traction on this very first game, and we started already the second game, that survival game that I think and I hope most of our viewers can check on our Zilliqa Gaming hashtag. We started to thought that, hey, we are doing more games and we can give also this kind of tools and access to the blockchain basically to anybody, not only us, by these games or the way we are building the stuff. And instantly we start thinking to create our own gaming hub. A gaming hub is Steam from Valve. It's the Epic Games. It's the Battle.net application that we get from Blizzard Activision. So we said, okay, let's build something like the Steam, but for the crypto games. And of course, we were going to create the very first content there. We're going to put our games there. And in the meantime, we already signed with Alien Worlds as a partner that will bring some games and their community in that gaming hub. So we built that gaming hub thinking about the players, bringing their content that they like, the games, and the items that all these games produce. But that raises the issue of having an inventory. Now, since we are a blockchain company and all these games are blockchain, instantly the discussion was about, okay, so all the skins, all the customizations we do for all these games, no matter if they're our games or external games, should go in the wallet. Right, so that means the gaming hub should create for you, Mr. Player, a wallet. Simply, you create an account the way you are used to, username, password, email, of course, and you get instantly a wallet to have all your inventory items there. But the cool part is that for you, Mr. Joe, the regular Joe Smith, the regular player of whatever Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, Battlefield games you enjoy, you're not going to care that is backed by the blockchain. But we're going to tell you in those tutorials that stay safe, stay happy, have fun in all the games, because your content, your items, your tokens are all on the blockchain. So just don't try not to lose your password or your account, because it'll be quite hard for us to know that it's actually you trying to access the data. The good thing now all over on this whole ecosystem is that you can sell and buy items, the NFTs, in the marketplace that we are now building in the gaming hub. And at the end of the day, you can move those tokens that you get from all these items to your credit card, to fiat, to real money. I want to see Steam, I want to see Battle.net, I want to see all the other gaming hubs that they are able to do this kind of stuff. I'll give you the most simple example. One kid plays a lot of one game, is very good at that. He makes a lot of skins, premium skin has rewards, or in whatever mechanics there. He sells or she sells those NFTs. The money, the tokens that he has there or she has there, can move them to the credit card. And then that kid, well, if he or she has a credit card, of course, can buy anything, real anything. Think about that. Food, pay the bills, or gift, or whatever, because it's actually earned. So play to earn becomes real by this whole mechanic, by this, all these things that we are building now.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. And I think being able to kind of make that onboarding experience very familiar in a way that people are kind of used to. When people talk about driving adoption, getting people into kind of the crypto or the blockchain space, I think that's kind of paramount. And I guess was another reason why we went to Gamescom the other week or a few weeks ago, was really about testing the thesis around our game and whether people would actually look at it as a game in its own right, rather than seeing it as a blockchain. And to be honest, from that impression that we definitely got that kind of seal of approval, that it felt like what we showed them, or with those two games that we have, was something that people wanted to play. So extremely bullish around when we do come to launch the games in that respect. And for me, the kind of the presentation layer and kind of managing the gamers experience in terms of the community within that kind of Steam-esque platform is going to be crucial to kind of driving adoption into the space. So I guess as we kind of sit there and we've kind of done quite a lot in 6 months, and people probably can't believe how much has been achieved, and I certainly have been extremely surprised and proud of kind of how much we've done. I guess we sit back sometimes and can reflect on kind of what comes next. And I guess, Valentin, just trying to kind of paint the picture. Where does this sort of thing end? Where does it end for Zilliqa, or what we're looking to do?
Yeah, even if we are quite at the very beginning of the things, but we do have extremely serious progression on the roadmap for all these products that we said so far. We already have 2 games very strong in production. One of them, the Web3 is almost done. We are now beta testing it, and starting with October, we're gonna do open beta events. So feel free everybody to join that, and kindly join that. A lot of stuff is happening each day. We already have additional of 8 games on the pipeline prepared. So that means a lot of content to be added to the gaming hub, plus many other games from external studios and partners that we are signing with. But now to think further on and looking at what happens in the regular Web 2.0 game industry, the to-go point, the to-go North Star is actually hardware, a console, an ecosystem of let's say a closed ecosystem, basically, where we have software, tools, the platform, I mean by software, we have games, so the players can enjoy all that. And now, precisely if we think about Microsoft, right, they are extending their pool of games by acquiring, they're still at this moment trying to get Activision Blizzard. Sony does the same, Nintendo does the same, Steam, they are doing the same with their Steam Deck. And I think for any company in this ecosystem, in order to properly do it, has to go on the hardware. And now, doing a step backward a bit, we are a blockchain company, right? So I think for blockchain companies, especially like ours that does games, a hardware, a console, a whatever kind of, or even a phone, think about Solana in this respect, is very important, because basically you have the wallet, you have all the cool features that blockchain can come with to a end user, like a player in this case.
Well, I look forward to that being enabled one day. I guess we could start to challenge the Tesla, Steam
Yes.
kind of automation experience that they're kind of going for. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the kind of the future in terms of what we're building out. I think that probably covers off where we're at the moment. I think once we go live with the game or get closer to kind of beta or kind of testing it out, we'll do another session. But hopefully you found it quite insightful in terms of kind of where we started, where we are now, and where potentially we're going. Thanks very much for tuning in. Thanks, Valentin.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.